Good afternoon, Dr. Laposata. Well, we have 6 minutes until it's afternoon. Dr. Laposata is funny as hell. I did not know she's going to be this funny. She didn't give funny when she was talking to AJ. But when Breenan got up there for her to deal with, she became really funny. She was very funny. She did really good on direct examination, but when Breenan got up there, she was so lighthearted and very matter of fact that it was hilarious. It was absolutely top. So today is day 30 in the Karen Read Retrial, and they started with motions because the defense was not happy with the fact that she could not talk about dog bites, even though she's got enough knowledge to talk about dog bites, that she even gives classes and educates on dog bites. Of course, Auntie Bev said no, but that is how they started the morning off, and Breenan got in his feelings. He really got in his feelings because AJ got up and said, as Breenan said, that's not what I said. It was what you said, and then he quoted him. He really didn't like that. But he, did he get in trouble for yelling at AJ? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But he did yell at him. That's not what I said. It was what you said. It was. Okay? Have a seat. So she did say that John O'Keefe did not pass from hypothermia. That was not a cause in the factor of what actually made him pass away. She said there were no broken bones in his arm and that he did pass away from the back of his head, and that was it. So he did not have hypothermia as a factor, even though his official report says that. It really wasn't a factor, according to her. And so she could not say dog bites. They were so offended by her saying dog bites. She couldn't even say bite. Like, after a while, it was like whenever she said bite, objection, sustained. They just didn't want her to be there. Honestly, point blank and beer. They just didn't want her to be there. Just say that. We prefer that you just say that. We prefer the honesty. We actually prefer the honesty instead of the fake wave over stuff. Just be honest, okay? They don't know how to do that. But every time she would try to explain, and she stayed on track. She did. It was them. She used her words wisely to try to explain it. And she's like, oh, when they bite, they have, specific things to recognize by their bite, by their claw marks, and things like that to help you understand what type of animal it is, since she couldn't say dog bite. He was asking her questions about being a neurosurgeon, and she was like, I'm not a neurosurgeon. And the way she responded to him was just like, are you okay? It was hilarious. She's like, I'm not a neurosurgeon. I don't diagnose or treat live patients. Right, sir. So he was going down this line of question about diagnosis and treatment of people that a neurosurgeon would deal with. And she's like, that's not my area of expertise. Yeah, I don't do that. He was asking her about the speed of Karen Read and the Lexus. And she stated to him, it doesn't matter because it didn't hit him. You know what? I already liked you when you started talking to him, but after you said that, I absolutely fell in love with you. She said it doesn't matter what speed it was going at. It's not what caused him to pass away. So they went to lunch, and Breenan wanted to introduce some information. He wanted to go down this line of questioning, and pretty much he was trying to question her past and stated that there was some issue with her back in 2003 that she was ignoring autopsies, that they had like 1,500 reports that had issues. She was asked to be on site to do an autopsy, and she made them wait 17 hours. He went into something about some fire that happened that he said she had something to do with, like the reporting of that autopsy, like she did something wrong. He went into this whole little tangent, and AJ was like, that is not what happened, and it is documented, and it was a very political issue. What are you talking about? He said that there was a new chief medical examiner that came in, and the way they wanted to do things was different than the way that she had done things and was used to and pretty much wanted to continue doing. And the issue was that they had a 2-person review of each autopsy to make sure that nothing was missed, everything was done right, things of that sort. And he wanted to get away, from that policy and just be like, well, you did your report should be accurate. There is no need for this 2-people review process. It's just, too much doggone work. And so they had a conflict. He wanted to do things his way. She wanted to do things her way. And she decided to leave after that. Of course, Auntie Bev said that he could go into that line of questioning, but when they got back, he didn't actually go into that line of questioning. So I don't even know what the point of that was. wasting time unnecessarily. But AJ did advise that Breenan has hired her 4 or 5 times himself. So him coming up and trying to talk about her past, it just didn't go. He was like, this is not a good look for the Commonwealth. Like, you've hired this woman yourself multiple times. So he has hired her on his own as a defense attorney 4 or 5 different times. So you knew this woman's past before you tried to come in here to talk about it today. You knew what she was on. You knew what actually happened. You probably was cool with her back then when it did actually happen. So before he was done, he got into this whole tangent about hypothermia. Well, what about this and hypothermia? What about that and hypothermia? What about this and hypothermia? Like, he just kept going over and over and over. And she kept responding. It's possible, but that didn't happen in this case. It's possible, but we have to worry about what happened in this case. It's possible, but this case. She always redirected him, and he was getting very frustrated with that. He did not like that. But that is the point of what she is supposed to do. Because this woman teaches so much, she knows how to respond to students. And that was a teacher response to a student. Yes, this is possible, but we have to worry about this case. That didn't happen in this case. She kept redirecting every single time. Every time. And then Hank played this random video that Arca had presented with the crash dummy, and he gave no context. He just showed the video, and it was like, what? They had a sidebar and the judge did strike you, but it was just out in left field. This is how you know he thinks he's losing, because he is just throwing stuff at the wall at this point. He is reaching so hard unnecessarily. Like, if you thought your case was solid, you wouldn't have to do all this shenanigans that you've been doing. And it's just been really frustrating to watch. Him and Bev, they on my last nerve. And then AJ got up to finish up with her, and he wanted to show the x-rays that were done on John O'Keefe's body, and he did it in demonstrative aids that were pretty large. And she was like, well, can't we just give them the thumb drive? And so they had a whole nother sidebar, and he did win the sidebar, of course, because they did show the demonstrative aids. So he showed the demonstrative aids of the x-rays. He didn't really like pan around or anything like that, but he did show them to her, and she did go over them and say, you know, to acknowledge there was no broken bones and that it was done at the time of his original autopsy. So they finished up with her. They should have had Dr. Rensler come tomorrow, because putting him on the stand today was a waste of time. So they did bring him to the stand, but all he went over was his background, his education, where he worked. He received information about aperture and that he did his own report, and that was it. And then Auntie Bev was like, well, you'll have you come back tomorrow, because she wanted to go over some stuff, and she could have waited, but she sent him off, and it was a waste of his time to come on the stand today and then have to come back tomorrow. No regard for nobody's time, clearly. But she wanted to go over the fact that she is preventing the defense from bringing in some of the clips they wanted to in their PowerPoint. So she was like, strike this page, strike that page, strike this page, strike that page. That's what she sent that man home early for. So she could tell him, no this, no that, no this. I don't understand. I really don't. Like, she has an issue all of a sudden with them having visual aids. Even though that's common when we do court cases, it's not a new concept of having aids. I don't understand, but that's what that was about, all right? But it is looking like we may have closing statements by the end of the week. It's really giving that, because I believe the Commonwealth is only going to bring like 2 witnesses on the stand for their rebuttal cases, and it is not expected for them to be super long. So we may have closing arguments, you know, by weekend. I don't know how I feel about that, especially because this week has been feeling very icky. So I don't know. They need to push it out and we can start over next week. That's really how I'm feeling. Because the way it's been going this week, this has been hell this week. I don't know. The energy has been very off this week. And so I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan. Really, not a fan. But that is day 30 in the books.